Welcome to the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday episodes. I'm your host, Aman and Evan, and today I'm going to talk about the NBA All-Star selections, the NFL Pro Bowl selections, and then, of course, more Warriors news. There's a lot of news that came out since that Jokic absolutely insane game winner. We'll talk about that later on this episode. But before we start, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok. We post daily so you don't miss any sports content from us because we cover all topics through the shorts, through these episodes, through the episodes on Spotify and Apple. So make sure to tune in on all those social media platforms. Pro Bowl and NBA All-Star reactions, Evan obviously posted majority of those, and I shared kind of the similar thoughts. But let's start with NFL. Many people thought that Patrick Mahomes deserved to be or should have been left off of the Pro Bowl votes because obviously you had CJ Stroud, who was playing like an NFL MVP candidate before his injury. And so it took everyone by surprise, I feel like, or everyone was disappointed because of the players that were ultimately left off of the final teams. And obviously, I feel like each season it's just becoming more irrelevant, but it's still like a good thing to put on a player's resume for contract bonuses and so many things like that. And so I feel like in that way, it's pretty important for these certain players. And so for the let's start with the AFC side, actually. So for the AFC, we have Tua, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes. People said Mahomes struggling, so CJ Stroud should have been in. I feel like that should be the case, especially I feel like it's just become a giant joke in a way. Because last year, because of fan voting, injuries, and everything like that, Tyler Huntley became a Pro Bowl starter. Not Pro Bowl starter, but he was a Pro Bowler. And I feel like I get what they're trying to do, make it like how the NBA All-Star Game's a big thing, but obviously it's different when there's so much contact being absorbed like this in a sport in the NFL. Obviously it's different, but it's just becoming more irrelevant, I feel like. And Amon-Ra St. Brown was another snub, and off the top of my head, I don't know what other running backs you could put in because Derrick Henry struggled in the AFC, Josh Jacobs struggled in the AFC, Austin Eckler struggled in the AFC. So potentially, would you put Gus Edwards in there or Travis Etienne? I feel like he deserved it to some extent. So these are snubs that no one's talking about. In a perfect world where everyone's healthy, of course Nick Chubb would be in there. If Jonathan Taylor played more, he'd be in there. But I feel like maybe put in Gus Edwards because Raheem Mostert deserved it 1,000%. But I don't know about Derrick Henry. I'm fine with James Cook, but Henry and that Titans team has just been a massive struggle all season long. And then if you go to the NFC, the biggest snubs, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown. When you look at the receivers put in, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Puka Nacua. Of course, CeeDee Lamb deserves it. Of course, A.J. Brown deserves it. Of course, Mike Evans deserved it. But Puka Nacua is just explosive rookie season. He needs 28 more receiving yards to break the rookie receiving yard record. And, Deebo Samuel's exploded off as of late. So you could have made an argument that he deserved it. So the NFC just has a couple of receivers where if you get snubbed, you got to understand the skill that's actually in this league. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I feel like at this point is definitely better than Puka Nacua. And it's unfortunate because their contracts, their bonuses, all that are in the hands of the fans, basically. And Detroit, obviously up and coming. They're going to finally host a playoff game and everything like that. But maybe their fans aren't as popular as the Rams fans and all other NFL fans in general. Obviously, they're one of the most like devoted fan bases we have in sports, but maybe it's just not enough to get Amon-Ra St. Brown in, and that's just unfortunate. But then we go, the NBA All Star voting has the same problem where you're giving a certain amount of power to fans, and then obviously the media sort of tries and cancels that out. But you see Devin Booker not even being on the ballot. You got guys like Austin Reeves, Klay Thompson, who Devin Booker in a perfect world is definitely an all-star. Anthony Edwards has been performing way better than James Harden this season. So I feel like a lot of these awards, it's just based off of name. Just based off of name. And it's unfortunate because when players are trying to build their resume, when you're comparing grades from now on in the NFL, you'd be like, oh, he was a Pro Bowler X amount of times versus this guy who was a Pro Bowler only 3 times or whatever. And then same for the NBA. He was only a 5-time All-Star versus a 2-time All-Star. And that's largely because of the fans. And we saw in 2017 where, because of some ad campaign, I'm pretty sure, Zaza Pachulia was nearly an All-Star starter. Of course, the NBA stepped in because he wasn't a starter. Andrew Wiggins became an all-star starter because of some Japan fan voting. And so it just depends on which parts of the world get votes. And honestly, like Shea, like there's a perfect example of name. Like Shea is easily an all-star starter, but because obviously Stephen Curry has a name, he got the nod over Shea. And just the preliminary voting, obviously that could change the next few weeks up until the final rosters gets announced. But I mean, it's a Western Conference versus Eastern Conference game now, and I believe the West will 1000% destroy the East, but we'll stay in the West with the Warriors. I mean, Nikola Jokic, I mean, he did what Steph does to other teams, so it's kind of funny, like, even though I'm a Warriors fan, it's kind of funny that it happened against the Warriors off of Steph turnover and everything like that. So that's kind of funny to me. And I mean, as for the Warriors, reports came out that Kuminga no longer believes in Steve Kerr and no longer believes he can unlock his full potential with the Warriors. Obviously, before the season, reports came out that he requested a trade. The Warriors obviously didn't honor that just yet. And now Kuminga's, the minutes he's played, he exploded under Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr, I feel like his substitutions are kind of off the rails now because Moses Moody, I understand to some extent because no one could have predicted Pajemski's explosion, Trace Jackson Davis explosion, these guards and kind of forwards for Moses Moody because I know Steve Kerr likes to play small. But when Gary Payton's back, they play him more as a 3. So I feel like you still have space in that rotation to give Moses Moody minutes. And I mean, Wiggins has been struggling all season long, so I don't think many people get the reason why Kerr stayed with Wiggins because you have a lead. Once the lead became 10 points, Kerr should have been like, all right, I need some offense. And Kuminga obviously gave you better offense than Andrew Wiggins. And Kerr's thought process of Kuminga is going to be cold because he'd be straight off the bench. That's the case for every player. So why was he on the bench to begin with? Obviously, give him his rest. Give him his rest until the 5-minute mark. And then it should be Steph, Klay, Chris Paul, Kuminga, and probably Trace Jackson Davis closing. Because Steph and Klay played well up until the 4th, up until that struggle inside 5 minutes. But there's just certain lineups where I feel like that have to be on the floor when you're trying to close out a game. And could it be like, I believe 27 clutch games and the Warriors are 13-14. Imagine if they were like 17-10 in those clutch games. That's a whole 4-game difference. And then these blown leads, another 4-game difference. You're looking at the 1 seed if Kerr's substitution patterns are the same. And of course, some of those losses are attributed to the players themselves. So the Warriors got to figure it out because, I mean, Warriors fans were lucky to witness these championships over the course of the past 8 years because not many fan bases get to enjoy them. But I feel like at some point we got to realize that, hey, this dynasty is ending soon and the Warriors are going to be rebuilding. And like in 5 years from now, the Warriors aren't going to be competing at all because at this rate, the young players are getting shipped out of the Warriors because they're not getting minutes in Steve Kerr's system. So I mean, the Warriors are going to be rebuilding soon, so we just got to get used to just normal losing, and then maybe eventually competing one day after Steph, Clay, and Draymond retire. But that's my take. Warriors dynasty, no secret that it's sort of ending now, but I don't think the Warriors can compete this season. Maybe they'll be a playing team, dark horse sleeper team throughout the playoffs, of course, with their experience, but they got to figure it out quickly. But it's my take on everything. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. See you Monday or through the shorts. Have a great week.